This is Chrissy from the Cardstack project. This is a AMA from the community. I'm here to answer some of the questions that the community have submitted through the Telegram channel. There has been a lot of questions about the TGE, about the Cardstack architecture, some of which will be coming through in more long-form blog posts. The first question from the community is, why is there such a delay for the TGE? Obviously, as you guys have known, we are doing the token distribution plan in multiple batches. We completed the batch B, which is the main public pre-allocation early in March. And since then, we have been looking for ways so that the community who is going to participate in batch C is able to get the full functionality of the token and be able to participate not only with the smart contract that's about to be released on mainnet, but also to be able to redeem the token for capability and functionality right after the tokens unlock. So we've been spending a lot of time since the pre-allocation completed to essentially make sure that the actual token generating event as the crowd contribution, the KYC process, the whitelisting process is actually going to be performed on the Cardstack Hub. So we want to make sure that all of the actual deployment issue and the token usage utility capabilities are actually done before we announce the TGE date. We are very, very close to that, so we'll be announcing when the TGE will be very, very soon. Another question is, how would Cardstack offer users a self-sovereign identity in the blockchain? Our approach on identity is that we don't have one single way of saying this is the identity system of the decentralized internet. In fact, that actually doesn't make sense. There will be many different approaches. Different aspects to identity will most likely be backed by different blockchain, different dApps, or different protocol even. Cardstack's approach is that we do not define which identity protocol or what self-sovereign protocol you need to use Cardstack. We have a plugin-based approach, which means if you want to use a Bitcoin-backed identity protocol, you can do that through a plugin and then say, hey, this is my identity, this is my address, and that's what's the case. If you want to use the Ethereum version of it, whether that's like Uport or some other similar things, we can build plugin, not for Ethereum, but for Uport's specific APIs and ABIs. Now, for the token generating event, we are actually integrating with a cloud-based identity system as an initial demonstration, and that's already in the Cardstack repository. You can take a look at that and see what that means. The next question is, how exactly would Cardstack Hub allow users to control how the data is shared, collected, and disseminated? In a Cardstack model, you control the data that's been collected. You don't have to share any of it. When Facebook collected data, there's an implicit agreement that that data will be shared. It's just as part of the collection, it will be shared. Same with Google, same with Twitter. But in the Cardstack system, all it means that you save that information to your personal hub in a database you control, in a storage approach that is paid for by your token. You're paying to keep that data, and you can keep that data forever and keep it on the cloud if you're using it as a software service, or keep it on your hardware and you keep it on your computer. The sharing aspects of it is totally independent. We think of that as a syndication mechanism. So if you have a plugin that says, please take the data I've stored and share it with this other dApp or this other services, then that's up to you to create an orchestration rule within the Cardstack Hub to bring that data to another service. You can always turn that off and say, I do not want to share anymore. You can even say, I'm actually not sharing the data to this person and let them make a copy of it. I'm merely giving them permission to access my personal hub or my personal data packet that could be on Cardstack or it could be governed by another decentralized protocol where Cardstack is a conduit. And you can revoke that right in the future. It's totally up to you, and that's actually part of the authentication and permission scheme that you created in Cardstack. And it's quite flexible. It's based on a grant system, how like in database you can grant access to tables and fields. We've got that, and a lot of that has been actually refined through the creation of the TGE user interface and the orchestration capability for KYC. We have actually improved tremendously on that capability. You can take a look at our repository for the latest notes, and certainly we'll write it up in the future. How do we ensure that Cardstack will not share, market, offer, and sell users' profile data or social graph to third parties? One way to do that is to make sure that Cardstack is actually not in possession of that data. So I think number one is that by paying for your services directly, the cost of providing that storage and services, you're ensuring a much more aligned business arrangement where if there is unexpected leakage of your data, then you can sever that agreement. And with Cardstack's plugin mechanism, we are encouraging that there are easy way to competitors come in and say, hey, if you don't trust that person to store your files, please use this other centralized or decentralized storage protocol and move all your things over because we don't share your data. The other one is that you can always not use a software and service model for storing your data. So if you run the Cardstack on your computer, on the node you control, all that data is actually collected in the plugin that is on your hardware, or at least hardware that you have a direct account relationship with. And that's actually how we're going to start the model. Multi-tenancy is something that's much more convenient, very cost effective, where you can pay like $10 a month and share a slice of a server. But really to teach people or to show people the power of owning your own hub, we really want to instantiate the entire your personal hub in your own cloud, where you control all the thing and you basically have the root account credential to all the boxes and virtual machines and stuff like that. To reach as many users in the world as possible, how many languages would the Cardstack platform be localized at the public launch? I think what's important in any type of software development is to design internationalization and localization into the stack. And Cardstack is lucky that the software that we've chosen and on the front end and the back end all have internationalization capability through the community that has already been involved in. As far as at launch, is something that's going to be English first, and similarly to the way we've been translating our papers and our write-ups and documentations into different languages, we're going to make sure that we have the opportunity to acknowledge that our community is really from many places in the world speaking different languages, and we want to make sure that we prioritize the top languages that we will translate for, and to make sure that people can use Cardstack even if they don't read English. But that's something we really hope that the people who speak the language and understand the sensibility and the cultural nuances, it's not usually just strict translations are needed, but really understand how people use software. Kind of raise your hand and show yourself to the community, and then we will hopefully work with you to actually adopt the whole stack. Next question is, what would devs and miner be able to convert the token rewards into fiat? One of the reasons we chose Ethereum as the underlying kind of programming model for the smart contract that powers the token mechanism is we want to have an easy way to get in and out of our token to something that people are familiar with and know how to use. In this case, with Ethereum, most people who are familiar with blockchain knows how to get in and out from fiat to Ether. So that's where we initially gonna rely on the fact that we are a ERC20 that has that will have a fairly on-chain conversion from our token into Ether. And the second thing is that long-term, one of the key aspects of the Cardstack token mechanism is to isolate the inbound of a fiat value going to the token and the outbound of reward going out to the makers and miner, as we say in our material. The inbound one is actually quite unique in the way that it's really a payment for service that's non-refundable. So there's an easy way to get into that because it's really not a trading transaction. If a user say, I would like to buy $100 worth of Cardstack token for the purpose of redeeming for software service, if you cannot take those Cardstack token and sell in exchange or sell in even a peer-to-peer way, and that's not really a token, it's more like a credit in a system. On the way out, we really believe that there is an opportunity to treat those as basically payroll or payment for service rendered, because we have these proof of usage record, and then you can measure that and say, is it possible for us to classify that as a payroll transaction? And that's possible, and that's how people get paid today. And it's not a consequence of a trading transaction. That's something that will take more time, and we're working with our legal counsel in Switzerland to see if there's a way for Cardstack to provide some of those services. Amid regulatory uncertainty, what is Cardstack's long-term plan for end-user adoption? I think there's no regulatory uncertainty about end user utility. I think if there is a token that has value today and you can use it for its intended purposes, the regulators will say, hey, you just pre-purchase a product and you can use it. And that's how I see Cardstack, right? The Cardstack token represent a unit of payment for decentralized software services, and that's been very, very clear. So I think the regulatory uncertainty really is for tokens that cannot be functional on the day that the token is released or unlocked or distributed. And that's why we took a little bit more time to ensure that we don't fall into that gray area, that the Cardstack token will be functional from day one. You can use it to redeem services in software that's running on the open source code that has been public. And so we really believe that the decentralized internet has a bright future. It's just that there's a little intermediate time for other projects to catch up to its promise and value. When those projects are functional, Cardstack will intend to orchestrate their kind of intended utility, the delivered and fulfilled utility as part of a broader set of experiences that end user can tap into. But if other tokens are able to get the service out there, the utility implemented on chain or in a layer 2 protocol, and then get the qualification from the regulator that these are things that are up and running and compliant to different jurisdiction, we will then incorporate those capabilities by using the API or ABI or the protocol clients and deliver those value to Cardstack users who are now having another feature they can add to the cohesive experience that they expect from the decentralized internet. What milestones have the dev team reached so far? I think the number one milestone we've reached so far is that we have actually completed the Cardstack Hub, right? One of the most important aspects of Cardstack is that we have this idea that there's a hub that encapsulate your identity and can tap into multiple protocol and unify that and give you a unified view. The token mechanism that comes with the protocol is also something we deliver as part of the TGE. So the TGE is actually a milestone of completion, not a milestone of commencement. That is actually something we are very proud of, and we want everybody to play with it. Now, obviously, on the user interface aspects of it, we want to do a lot more work around making a design system. Part of what our roadmap is going to be for the rest of the years is to build some practical features and reusable UI or components, which we call cards, that are typically needed for people to work in crypto. As far as plugins are concerned, a lot of plugins you see in the Cardstack repository, github.com/cardstack/Cardstack, seems not directly related to crypto. It seems like we have like one Ethereum adapter and 17 of other things. But the truth is, there's a lot of services that's needed to keep this Cardstack Hub running and storing data and booting things up and dealing with security, dealing with database to keep settings and testing harnesses to test the application before we go on chain. Those are all things that we have actually build plugins for, and they're all built in a plugin model, so we can swap those things out with real things. Like, here's a plugin to store data in nothing, in just in memory, and this is one that will store the same data, the same UI collected data on a future third generation blockchain that all already designed and put into in places. So this idea of these plugins being already kind of formed and shaped, and the whole ecosystem kind of, you can see the shape of it, is a really big milestone that we have actually worked the last year and almost year and a half on this new kind of plugin based, NPM based architecture. And obviously, nobody is going to really understand what Cardstack is doing and just by reading the source code. So we also have expanded quite a bit in our communication staff, bringing people who are know how to explain things, know how to communicate, how to really find a way to bring it to earth, so people say, hey, this is what Cardstack's all about. But right now, we understand that we need to be much more keep you guys up to date with all the great things that's going on. We hear that loud and clear. We need to be not just doing great work, but also telling you the great work we're doing, so you can spread the words and help build this community and build a value in this ecosystem and grow this. We're going to have more engagement on Telegram directly with our team as we have expanded our communication team. You will see more people with Cardstack badges, as well as working with the Amazix team, which has done a really great job helping us collect and answer questions. But as we get closer to the TGE, I'm sure the resolution and the frequency of communication will increase. And we'll look for engaging you over there, and feel free to send questions to the moderator, and they will get to me, and I will make sure that we turn around those questions quickly. So thank you very much for your time today, and I hope to talk to you more soon. Bye-bye.